Warm greetings, Code Monkeys, and welcome back to CodedLockFilms. Recently, I saw Captain America Civil War, and I happen to think it's pretty freaking great, but I should admit that I have a little bit of bias in that regard. Captain America, over the past several years, has become my favorite superhero as far as cinematic superheroes go, so maybe take it with a grain of salt when I say that this is a really good movie. But yeah, I think this is a really good movie. My main concern going into it was that this movie has a really big cast of characters. Like, there are more superheroes in this movie than the first Avengers movie, and I think Age of Ultron as well, actually. I don't know, I'd have to like count it out to be sure about Age of Ultron, but definitely more than the first Avengers movie. And my concern was that this was essentially just going to be another Avengers movie, but we're calling it a Captain America movie instead, but that's really not the case. This is still Steve Rogers' story. Steve Rogers, much like Superman, is a character that is hard to write. He's noble, he's self-sacrificing, he's courageous, and he always does the right thing. And that character can very easily get kind of boring. The best way, in my mind, to make a character like that interesting is you take that character who is defined by the fact that they do the right thing pretty much all the time, and you put them in a situation where doing the right thing is really freaking hard. Not only is doing the right thing really hard, but figuring out what the right thing is really difficult. And the Captain America movies, I think, have done that very well. One of the other things that I really like about this movie is how it takes the basic idea behind the Civil War comics. Backtrack a moment. In the comic books, the Civil War event is based around this essentially superhero registration act. Basically, there's this piece of legislation that states that anybody with superpowers has to be registered with the government. The government has to know who they are and what they can do, and if they don't agree to that, then they are considered to be a criminal. Iron Man is on one side of this legislation, Captain America is on the other side, and the superheroes of the world kind of break into these two factions, hence Civil War. And this movie does something similar to that, but it makes it, I think, a little bit more interesting. In the movie, it's less about all superhumans being registered with the government and more so about the Avengers having governmental oversight. Basically, in response to all of the collateral damage that is caused by the fights that the Avengers have with all these big supervillains, the United Nations introduces this global legislation called the Sokovia Accords. The Sokovia Accords are left pretty loose. They don't like spend a bunch of time in the movie going into like all the ins and outs of the Sokovia Accords because that would be boring and a bad movie. But the essential point of it is that the Avengers would no longer be a private organization. They would be an organization that is overseen by the UN. Some of the people in the Avengers are for it, some of them are against it, and Civil War. And that whole story structure kind of forms the backdrop for what is ultimately Captain America's personal story. It's a story about his personal philosophy, his personal beliefs, and his personal investment in his best friend, Bucky Barnes. Essentially, Bucky is framed for doing something that he didn't do, and because he was a brainwashed super soldier for so long, there's not really a whole lot of hope for him to be kind of let off the hook. I'm not going to go into all the details of what happens because I think it's best experienced as blind as possible, but it really is very good. If you are the type of person to be invested in the overall story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this one is really very much a must-see. It's very good. It's very emotionally moving. The action is really great, particularly the action involving Ant-Man and Spider-Man. I'm not going to give it away, but it's pretty great. And there's a lot more consequences in this movie as a result of the actions of the various characters. Really, that's one of the major themes of this movie, is that every action has very serious consequences, and this movie is kind of about addressing how these various characters deal with said consequences. It's really great. Like I said, the action is fantastic, but it's really very much a character piece, and I really enjoyed the hell out of it. Captain America continues to be my favorite superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, this one is just a really great movie. On the worth meter, I would give it worth seeing multiple times. I know that I'm probably going to be seeing it multiple times in theaters. Yeah, really great. go see it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and if you saw the movie, tell me what you thought about that in the comments. And until next time, Code Monkeys, I will see you later.